I made well over 100 videos for clients of all kinds over the course of 10 years. But over the past few months, I've decided to start experimenting with content for my personal profile in order to find out what truly works and maybe even more importantly, what really doesn't work. And to be very honest, this has been a journey of successes, but it's equally been a journey of failures. Some videos did very well, while others barely had any reach, which is tough. Now, especially if you're spending a lot of time and effort into making your content. But it turns out that the LinkedIn algorithm is just truly a tough nut to crack. But after all these videos, I did notice some general principles that drive success. So strap your seatbelts. I'd like to take you on a journey of the past, the present, and the future of video on LinkedIn through my own experience and through some interesting research and data about video on the platform. But first, a very quick history lesson. So I still remember the good old days of LinkedIn, when video was this underdog format, no one was really using it. And back then, you might remember that if you're an OG, there was no way to natively post video on the platform. You had to actually paste a link to YouTube or Vimeo and then hope that people would click on it, which was not very effective. So LinkedIn itself probably was getting worried as well, because each time someone wanted to watch the video, they had to click this link and leave the platform, which was detrimental to the engagement of the post. And so, in August of 2017, they finally decided to allow native video uploads. Well, for personal profiles. And it sucked, really. I kid you not. LinkedIn made all your videos look like they were shot on a potato, and they sounded like you recorded them underwater. It was just horrible. But it did mark a strategic shift for the platform, moving away from being just a public CV to a place where people could actually connect around new types of ideas and share their expertise in an even more personal and engaging way. And in the years following the launch, video became more and more popular. Users were spending more time on the platform, and the engagement rates were going up. And they even introduced some new features, such as, I don't know if you remember this, but the LinkedIn Stories, and now this mysterious video tab that suddenly disappeared again. But I'll come back to that later. And so in 2025, according to Metricool's research, there is a significant surge in video content on the platform. And I'll just throw some numbers at you. Watch time is up 160% from 2024. Views are up 52%. And people are posting more and more videos, with 14% of profiles posting more videos than the year before. So something is going on. But despite the massive growth of video on the platform, LinkedIn has never really been very transparent on the mysterious machine that drives it all. And I'm talking about the algorithm. So is video the future of the platform? Will video take over the feed in a few years? Or are there better alternatives? Now, the evidence is pointing in many different directions. So I knew I had to dig deeper and try to uncover the truth. And that brings us to today. Now, I've had the opportunity to work on the social media videos of big festivals such as Tomorrowland, but also corporates and SMBs. And I've even had the opportunity to work on some global media campaigns for nonprofits. So my work with content marketing has mostly been behind the scenes, but the more I did it, the more it truly fascinated me. And I'm just saying this to illustrate that my passion and my expertise for video content has always been very focused on clients. And it's just recently that I decided to create content for myself and open up my passion for others. While I'm still experimenting and trying to figure out my style, I did gather some really interesting data on what works and what doesn't. And that's because over the course of 2 months, I've shared a mix of long and short form content in horizontal, square and vertical formats. And I also tried to share a mix of personal stories and more knowledge-driven content just to see what sticks. And I'm just going to share my high-level insights now. Maybe I'll make a detailed video with stats in the future. But the first insight is that personal stories, they are a big winner. So I made 2 videos around perfectionism and overcomplicating things, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. And this actually makes sense, as I think that people crave humanity in a feed that is mostly focused on selling and knowledge. Second insight is that shorter videos are more easily shared than longer videos, but shorter videos do not necessarily perform better. And I'll explain why later in this video. This is a hook. Third point is that viral hook templates that you see everywhere, they are no guarantee of success. Good hooks can help, but if the content doesn't deliver, they're kind of worthless. Okay, so moving on from my personal data, what is more interesting than looking at my timeline It is looking at the data acquired from thousands of posts across the platform, of course. And because I don't just want to throw numbers at you again, I'll try to crack the LinkedIn algorithm code by answering 3 simple questions. And the first question is, should I use video, text, or images? And this is a really tough question to answer for me personally because I've been making videos all my life. But as much as I believe in video at this point, data seems to suggest that video is not in fact always the most engaging format. Dang it. Let's take a look at the average engagement rate of different post types according to Social Insider's 2025 benchmark. And with engagement rate, by the way, I mean the engagement rate per impression. In other words, it's the likes plus the comments plus the shares plus the clicks divided by the amount of impressions. Okay, for video, it's about 5.6%, which is not bad. For text, it's about 4%, a little bit less. For single images, it's about 4.5%. And for carousels, 6.6%. So it seems like we have a clear winner, a carousel. And in case you don't know what a carousel is, they are these multi-image or multi-page PDFs that you can swipe through page by page. And according to data from Metricool, carousels are the top performing format with an engagement rate of up to 45%. Damn. We also have to take these numbers with a grain of salt, right? You cannot just turn every piece of content into a carousel. And as we can see from the data, the engagement rate of other formats such as video and pure text are actually pretty close. I've personally tried to include a video in each post over the past few months. And overall, they did pretty well. But if I have to be very honest, there were some occasions when I thought, including a video is not really adding any value. Or it might even be distracting from the key message. So here's the trick. Should I use video, text, or images? I'd say we look at the content of our message first and then decide which formats work best for that specific message. And from the data, it's safe to conclude that each type of content, whether that's text, images, or video, can all be effective. So the best strategy is to pick the right format that matches your audience and your topics. So this is with pain in my heart that I say this, but as much as I love video personally, I'm also going to experiment with images and carousels in the future. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. So that brings us to question number 2. Should I post long form or short form videos? And I love this question, and it's not because I came up with the question myself, but because the answer might not be what you think. I'd like to explain a concept first. Now, each platform has a different speed. Instagram is a very fast platform, for example. The speed in which people consume content is very fast, which is why videos are vertical and very short. The same goes for TikTok, by the way. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have YouTube, which is a much slower platform, with viewers taking more time to watch longer videos, except for the shorts, but we'll come back to that later. And that brings us to LinkedIn. LinkedIn? I genuinely don't think they have figured it out yet. Now, LinkedIn seems to have a 6-speed gearbox. And why is this challenging? Because people don't like switching from one speed to the other. It really disrupts their flow. Imagine you having to flip your phone at every video. Man, that's just ridiculous. And this is also why YouTube has recently split up its feed into 2 separate feeds. One for horizontal, longer videos, and then one for short, vertical videos. And yet, as of May 2025, LinkedIn still combines the 2 speeds into one feed. Whether you post a video of 10 seconds or a video of 10 minutes, they all end up in the same place. So what can we do about it? Well, we now know that LinkedIn is aware of this challenge, and they are actively trying to solve it right now. So you may have noticed that they recently released a dedicated videos tab that is permanently visible on the bottom of the screen. And it's kind of like a separate feed just for short vertical videos. But they then did the LinkedIn thing again, and they removed it a couple of weeks later. It was gone again for many. What can I learn from this? How can I anticipate? Now, my bet is that LinkedIn introduced these separate feeds as a test to see if it would increase the overall engagement of the platform. But the tests weren't always super successful because they have a very complex calculation to make. On the one hand, LinkedIn is a platform that positions itself as a professional network where people are expected to conduct themselves professionally. And on the other hand, they're looking over their shoulders and there's this TikTok guy getting all the attention. We know them. If I had to pick a side, I'd say that the regular LinkedIn timeline is moving towards the faster side of the spectrum. And for a little while, LinkedIn will still try to push different videos of different lengths, along with many other content types. After all, LinkedIn is mostly a networking tool, and it's not really an entertainment platform. And we can use this to our advantage to diversify our content types and experiment with what works and what doesn't, just for our specific audience. See, different users can come to the platform with different intentions. Just quickly checking up on what's happening in your network is a very different intention from actively looking for knowledge and information. Prediction time, that's why I'm predicting that LinkedIn will over time continue to run these experiments to split long form and short form videos by moving one of the two into its own dedicated space, just like the Shorts tab. And if I could take an even wilder guess, I think that long form videos will play a big role in the future of the platform. It could be through a new and revamped learning environment or by introducing channels just like on YouTube around certain topics, marketing, video, strategy, business. And just to wrap up this question, I personally shared 4 long-form videos over the past year, and they were between 6 and 12 minutes. And every single one of them has gotten more impressions, more engagement, and more watch time than any of the shorts I posted in that same year. So, does short-form video on LinkedIn work? Yes, it does. And long-form video on LinkedIn work? Yes, it can. And that brings us to our latest question. How can I go viral on LinkedIn now and in the future? That's an ambitious and a weird question, but I'll answer it anyway. I'll maybe slightly rephrase the question though. How can I use content to grow my business and build an audience in the long term? That's much better. For me, there are just a couple of basic principles to keep in mind while going on this journey of content creation. And I could just keep on talking about tactics, about hooks, about data, about tools, but they all ultimately don't matter if you don't get these basics anyway. And the first principle is to understand your audience. And with that I mean truly understand your audience. What are their pain points? What makes them tick? Who are they? Well beyond their demographics. What alternatives do they have? And I can keep going. But the point is that people are not watching your content for free. They're actually paying for it with their attention. I did read this metaphor on LinkedIn, but it's true. Viewers will give their attention only to the content that is relevant for them and feels like it was made just for them. So understand your audience. Secondly, focus on developing your unique perspective. Having a unique perspective is important because it separates you from the rest. And I know that this might sound challenging at first because it does require a lot of introspection on the why behind our brand. But I'll spare you the cold shower. You can only develop a unique perspective and unique style by actually developing it. So don't let the fear of perfecting hold you back. You might not hit the right nail on its head from the beginning, but practice makes perfect, right? Just start with a simple video message or try crafting your first carousel. Whatever it is, just try and keep working towards your unique perspective. At least that's what I'm doing. And at last, I tricked you into thinking there was a third point, while it was actually more of a message. I mean, a world that is being rapidly disrupted by AI, it's just easy to forget that behind every screen, behind every phone, there is a reader, a listener, a human. Now, what I learned from creating hundreds and probably even thousands of videos in the past 10 years is that the most successful videos resonate with viewers well beyond what a machine can ever comprehend. And I truly know this because I've had people call me, mail me, and share with me their honest reaction on some of the campaigns that we did. And yes, while the art of creating content may have become a little bit easier with all these tools, which is good, until we have personal AI agents feeding a summary of all videos straight into our brain, great content that's made for humans. And if you do this, you may end up going viral after all. That was it for this video. Hope to see you in the next one.